Welcome back to Always Ageless, where we believe that life is full of possibilities at any age. It's full of purpose and new adventures. And today's guest is someone truly special. And actually, today we get two guests. Tom Stevens is the founder and CEO of Tombot, the company behind Jennie, the world's most advanced robotic puppy designed just for older adults, although I think I want one too. Well, I am older. So this story began with Tom's family. He's going to tell us that story. And like many of us, Tom wanted to bring comfort and companionship to his loved ones. But what he created was so much more. With a background in tech leadership and a heart full of love, he built a robotic dog that's helping thousands of families bring joy, calm, and connection to their aging loved ones. And yes, he's even partnered with Jim Henson's Creature Shop to make sure that Jennie feels, moves, and responds like a real puppy. And for those of you who can see this today or watch the video after, you're going to be amazed. So whether you're a caregiver, a family member, or you're just curious about how tech can serve humanity, this conversation will move you. When I first heard about Tom and I saw Jennie, I knew I had to have him on our show, Always Ageless, and bring him to all of you, our viewers and our listeners. So let's welcome Tom Stevens to Always Ageless.
Uh,
Tom, welcome.
Hi, Valerie. Thank you so much for having us.
You are so welcome. So tell us your story. I think began with your family, maybe your mother,
It did.
and her experience. So tell us about that.
Yes, I'd be happy to. So my background, as you mentioned, I've been in high tech my entire career. My two Tombot co-founders and I built a prior startup into one of the world's largest litigation automation companies. And we were successfully acquired in 2011, which gave me the freedom to think about other things. Unfortunately, that same year, my mother was diagnosed with Alzheimer's dementia, and I had to make a lot of really difficult decisions on her behalf. By far the worst was realizing she could no longer safely care for her 2-year-old golden doodle puppy, which was a full
Oh,
size standard dog with all kinds of energy that was knocking her down and all kinds of other difficult situations. While I successfully found a new home for her dog, my mom was furious with me. Every day was, "Where's my dog? Why can't I have my dog? When am I getting my dog back?" Really, just out of motivation to salvage my relationship with her, I started looking around for substitutes for live animal companions. She didn't like anything that I brought home, and I realized there was a very large gap in the market. That launched me on what became a multi-year research and education journey, culminating in a master's degree from Stanford University. And along the way, I learned my mom's story is shared by over 300 million seniors with dementia or pre-dementia, mild cognitive impairment, and about half the planet. About 1 billion of the 2 billion households do not keep a live animal as a pet for reasons including health adversity, cost, burden of care, and living restrictions. And so we launched Tombot to be in service to those people.
that is amazing story. And I know we're going to hear more as we go along. So did you start your education at Stanford in your college years, or did you go back to Stanford?
I went back to school. So one of the privileges of being acquired is I didn't have to go back to work immediately. It turns out retirement didn't suit me. I learned I don't want to play golf every day. Uh, and while I was working with my mother in the early days of her diagnosis, I wasn't thinking about launching a company, but she was so upset, and I started talking to people and realized that, wow, this problem might be solvable with technology, and technology is rapidly evolving to make something like a robotic animal possible. And so the further I got into this, the more interested I became. And I said, well, I need to go back to school. I can't come from litigation, automation, and general technology to robotics. So I'm going to go back and study a bit more. And so ended up getting my master's degree.
And did you go to Stanford in Palo Alto, or did you?
I did. The program I was in was a full-time on-campus program. So Moved up there for it was a 1 year compressed program, so 12
Wow.
consecutive month program for a master's, and loved it. It was well, I should say, loved the people, loved all the activities we were doing. It was the most miserable year of my life in terms of the intensity of the academics. You can tell from the gray hair. I was not the youngest person on campus, although interestingly, I wasn't the oldest in my program. Uh,
Really?
uh, and
There were other older people?
yeah, so I did a master's program in the Graduate School of Business, and the program that I did, uh, you had to have a certain number of years of senior leadership experience, and so everybody was a bit older, although I was on the older end. But we had a professor in the medical school there who was taking a sabbatical to pursue this degree. We had the gentleman at the time was the dean of the medical school at Texas A&M, took a
Wow.
sabbatical to do the program, and many
Really
other people
interesting.
who were near my age, which at the time was my mid 50s,
Uh-huh.
who once again were looking to take the next big leap in their career, and let's see, go to an extraordinary academic opportunity there at Stanford.
Definitely, definitely. Well, that's great. So with over 30 years, you had over 30 years in your high level C roles, right?
Yes.
And then what key lessons from that did you carry over into your healthcare robotics startup?
Oh gosh. Well, I'll tell you about two. You acquire a lot of wisdom from doing things badly over the years. So there's many things that I've
Or
learned.
you hope you learned from them, right?
But yeah, when you're smart enough to learn from them, they're helpful.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case, unfortunately. But there were two major things that I learned that really were super formal. One was about just how to manage a business, running a business, and that is organizational culture. Really understanding employees, investors, board members, and what needs they have beyond financial compensation. And so structuring a culture which supports and rewards people in non-financial ways is super important. And I'm happy to delve into that. That really one of the biggest assets of our previous company, where my partners who were senior to me really instituted the organizational culture, and I really became a tremendous fan and supporter and owner of that culture over the years. The other is product innovation or new product development. One of the things that I learned from, once again, doing things not well, uh, is you never want to be a solution looking for a problem. You want to be really focused on the problem and then try to determine what the solutions are. So you have to be an expert on the problem. And this was the primary reason I went back to Stanford. I developed lots of software and services, other technology. I'd never developed a solution for a healthcare adversity. So our product is actually designed to treat the behavioral and psychological symptoms of dementia and reduce the need for certain medications, including psychotropics. And so what I went back to school to do, and once again carry over from my previous career, was how to become expert in this problem, how to become expert in my mother's problem, so that when I produced a solution, I would understand, have the ability to collect and process data to know that I was actually solving the problem. And there are two key metrics of all the metrics that you use to develop and evolve a product. The two most important, in my opinion, are one called product market fit. And product market fit, by simple definition, is solving a customer problem in a way that they love. And so, love for us means literally love the product. And then so they had to fall in love with us, had to create something that they would fall in love with. And then the second metric is minimum viable product. Minimum viable product means the least technologically advanced product in our application, least technologically advanced, least featured product that achieves product market fit. And the way to get there, the way to find that, because we could build $100,000 robotic dog that everybody would love and nobody would buy, um, is to find product market fit and then begin product development with an inferior product and then iterate on that until you actually achieve product market fit. And as you mentioned, our work with Jim Henson's Creature Shop was absolutely critical. We knew early on that our prototypes had to be high fidelity, meaning they had to look great, in order to get the kind of data that we needed from the over 700 seniors with dementia with whom we studied. And without that partnership, we never would have been able to determine what product market fit was and that we had a version that actually achieved product market fit.
When you first started this, how did you what was your vision? Was your vision to go as far as you are?
No, it really wasn't. In fact, I tried to remain as agnostic about what the solution might be. So I took my mom's dog away. So robotic dog was always rattling around in the back of my head, but that wasn't really our mission. Our mission was to develop a better emotional attachment object. We are very fortunate that we are standing on the shoulders of over 200 peer-reviewed studies going back as many as 40 years that looked at the behavioral and psychological symptoms of dementia and how to treat them, how to manage them. Research shows that where a senior with dementia can form a robust emotional attachment to an object, traditionally that's been a human baby doll or a stuffed animal, that senior gets a great deal of relief from the behavioral psychological symptoms, which include loneliness, anxiety, depression, delirium. In my mother's case, hallucinations and violent anger.
Oh,
And where they form that emotional attachment, it also reduces their need for certain medications, including psychotropic medications and opioids. The problem, however, is almost all seniors are like my mother, and they don't care for human baby dolls or stuffed animals. Research on robotic animals show they significantly outperform those traditional objects and have the added benefit of reducing pain and the need for pain medications. The problem there, however, is existing technologies, and it's still true today, are either simple children's toys, which were originally created for children, which after the novelty effect wears off, most people lose interest in them.
yep, yep,
Uh, or on the other end of the spectrum are prohibitively expensive robots. This whole space was invented in the early 2000s by a Japanese research institute. They created a robotic seal by name of Paro, Paro. It's a good robot, but it costs over $6,000. Most
yeah,
senior care facilities can't afford one, let alone individuals like my mother who need one for themselves in order to form that emotional bond. And so we didn't set out to develop a robotic dog. We set out to develop a better emotional attachment object, one that consistently stimulates emotional attachment over time, but it also be priced at a level that many people could afford it, even before we get healthcare insurance reimbursements in place. So we studied with over 700 seniors with dementia, three formal rounds and a bunch of anecdotal rounds, developed 5 generations of high fidelity prototypes. This one's modeled after generation 5. And of the many things that we learned, the most important were around realism. Realism, first of all, on objects of which they're already familiar. So puppies and kittens, as opposed to wild animals or fictitious creatures like humanoids. And then realistic in terms of appearance, in terms of texture, and
right.
most importantly, in terms of behaviors. And with the help of Jim Henson's Creature Shop, we were able to get there and define what all of those features and functionality needed to be.
Look at that. And did you, so when you started in your first prototype, was it at all would you have been happy with that at all? And your curiosity just kept you growing? Or it was just, let's just start with this something very, very basic and
Well, so the bringing a product to market, a product like this, a physical product like this, is about prototyping in the fastest, least expensive way that
Right.
you can. If we didn't care what the product looked like, this would have been a much simpler endeavor. You
Yeah,
know,
sure, of course.
you get a bunch of things, you tape them together, and you say, "Hey, do you like this?" But we realized early on as we were preparing for these studies that seniors with dementia couldn't give reliable information verbally. We couldn't ask them for their opinion.
Oh, of
So
course.
we end up reaching out to the academic world and teamed up with researchers from Georgia Tech and the University of Illinois. These are leading research institutes for human robotic interaction with seniors. And they helped us develop a coding methodology for our studies that did not rely on verbal information. Rather, it relied on observed behaviors. So, did they
Right,
look at it? Did they touch it? Did they smile? Did they talk to it? Did they talk to somebody else about it? A whole series
right.
of measurements that we made. And that allowed us to very confidently determine whether they would prefer one product or the other. And so our studies were built around A B testing. So, do you like A or do you like B? Do you like Coke? Do you like Pepsi? Uh, and through these iterations, we were able to say, do you like this? Do you like this? And our goal was to get to a point where they were indifferent. In other words, they don't care between A and B, so we know when we're done. Well, it took us a long way to get there. And to
Right,
answer your
yeah.
question succinctly, the first versions were very limited. You know, I would have been happy if the data said this was what they wanted, but the data didn't. The data was not very attractive at all. And we said, okay, we're scratching our heads. Okay, what do we make of the data? Where are the shortcomings? And then let's make a plan for the next generation of prototypes.
Sure. So where did you get your 700 people? Where did you get your core group?
So it turns out that beginning with dementia as our first product to market was a lucky choice. I didn't plan for that. I just wanted to solve my mom's problem, so I was sort of
Of
focused
course.
on that. But it was a lucky choice because unlike other populations that have serious mental health adversities,
Yeah.
so children with level 2, level 3 autism, developmental intellectual disabilities, adolescents with severe anxiety, depression, suicide risk, substance use disorder, adults with PTSD, bipolar, schizophrenia. Unlike these other populations, seniors with dementia congregate. They congregate at senior care facilities such as senior daycare or assisted living or memory care. And when I reached out to people that my mom knew, senior care professionals that my mom knew, they
Uh-huh.
said, "We would love to study this." And so
Oh,
we focused all of our research. Valerie and I are both here in Southern California, but we
right.
did all of our
Busy. Sure.
research in Ventura County and Santa Barbara County.
Okay.
First of all, because we were in stealth mode, and so we wanted to kind of stay off
Off
the
the radar. Yeah.
radar, but also because Ventura County and Santa Barbara counties are highly representative of socioeconomic diversity. So, a wide range of income levels, a wide range of education levels, wide range of racial makeup. We have a very substantial immigrant population, in large part kind of the agricultural
Yeah, the farm workers.
populations of Ventura,
Mhm.
Santa
Right.
Barbara County. So we were able to pull in a lot of different kinds of people, different walks of life,
And
and
also different than ethnicities, right?
precisely. So even within a racial makeup, you get a lot of ethnic disparity, uh, and um, and languages. For example, a lot of
Right.
people we worked with do not speak English as a first language. Many of them struggle with English in general. And so, how does language influence our ability to be in service to them?
Right.
And so it was because, and once again, this was just luck. Because we started with dementia, we were able to pull very large numbers fairly
Yes.
effortlessly. What was actually a bigger challenge was to make sure that we were getting a big enough, a diverse enough sample. Because I could go to a skilled nursing facility and get 100 long-term residents. And so I didn't want to have 3 or 4 or 5 of those. I wanted to get a few of those and then go to other places to make sure that we were getting people who could afford to private pay assisted living or memory care, people that needed Medicare, Medicaid, to pay for that, people who are living at home and cared for by an unpaid family member. 83% of seniors with dementia in the United States live at home and are cared for by an unpaid family member. So it was actually a bigger challenge to make sure that our sample really was representative enough and not just, convenient for us in doing these studies.
Yes, I would ask. I mean, you also could find that though in Orange County or in LA County, right?
Precisely.
But you just wanted to do it.
We've done studies in LA County and Orange County subsequent to these. It's actually so 32% of seniors in the United States live in one of 4 states. In descending
And
order,
what's the percentage?
32%. So in descending order, California, Texas, Florida, and New York. And so we were another lucky thing that we were here in California, but if we had been in Texas, Florida, or New York, we would have had just as easy a time of producing these studies.
Interesting. Now, at what point did you decide to engage Jim Henson's Creature Shop?
The very beginning. One of the wonderful things from a business standpoint about my mother's journey with Alzheimer's dementia is I had a live-in test case. I had somebody right there who had
That
no problem giving me her opinions about anything. Uh, uh, Wonderful person. Hopefully we get a chance to talk about her a little bit because
sure,
her
absolutely.
story is
Tell us
interesting.
more.
Um, but I had a test case. I had not only I could observe uh, what she was going through firsthand, but I could also my own experience as being a caregiver for her and all of the challenges associated with that, which are not to be understated. Uh, I got a lot of firsthand information from that, and what I realized that right away is that something that was toy-like in appearance was not going to work. The
Really?
our first round of customer studies we're looking at existing products that had a variety of different forms. And our first hypothesis that we tested, because I really wanted to understand why human baby dolls and stuffed animals were not succeeding. Uh, the first hypothesis was uh, s- seniors with dementia would strongly prefer objects that move over objects that do not move. And so I got some very high quality Alzheimer's approved stuffed animals, human baby dolls, as well as some simple mechanical toys, and tested them. And we could detect preference with the senior with dementia, literally 100% preferred the objects that moved over the objects that didn't move.
Yeah.
But and these were off the shelf products. These were not products that we produced. I just wanted to get a foundation
Right. Yep.
data going. But we would hear things like, "Oh, I think my granddaughter might enjoy this," or maybe my great grandson would like playing with this. And we realized that, my mother never walked down the toy aisle at Target shopping for herself. Seniors don't
Oh,
identify as
interesting.
toys. So people think of seniors with dementia as really being completely incapable of doing anything. And that's really not the case. It's really only the very latest stages of dementia where somebody is so profoundly impacted by the disease. Early, where dementia is still mild, still able to successfully live, maybe not independently anymore, but still live. And so the information that we got at those early stages was fairly useful. And so we knew that toy-like appearance wasn't going to succeed. And I said, okay, we need help. Um, uh, Living here in Los Angeles and being the son of a Hollywood executive, career executive. My dad was in a senior position at Universal Studios.
How fun.
Um, I have just immediately thought, well, special effects. We should reach out to the
Yeah,
people
absolutely.
that
Yeah,
make.
I can see where that yeah, of course you would think that, sure.
And we reached out to quite a few, and we were just lucky that Jim Henson wanted to work with us. There's a video on our website that's a behind the scenes video. It was shot at the Jim Henson Creature Shop. Um, their two leads, their creative director and their animatronic supervisor, were both in late stage dementia. Their fathers were both in late stage dementia. And
Um,
so they personally identified with our mission immediately and said, we want to work on this. Please let us work on this with you.
oh my gosh,
And
yeah.
so what they were able to do for us was create these prototypes of different appearance, different shapes, different sizes, different features, and progress those through the various rounds of studies until we actually got to this point.
And of course, it's not unlikely that someone there could be connected with dementia somehow, because there's so many people who have dementia of some sort, right? Not all Alzheimer's, but that of course, that you might find someone who is connected with it and could relate to your project.
The prevalent, as you say, the prevalence is extraordinary. It's thought that of people 85 and older, 50% have Alzheimer's. It doesn't mean they haven't progressed to dementia necessarily, but they have Alzheimer's. So they have greater than age-related cognitive decline. And the number one risk factor for Alzheimer's is age. And so, if we live long enough, the likelihood is that we're going to have some kind of neurological disease that impairs our ability to think. And so, the prevalence as we live longer, as our general health supports greater and greater longevity,
Right. Right.
we're going to run into other limitations. And Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, Lewy bodies are limitations on our ability to healthfully age in many circumstances.
And for those of you who are unable to see us right now, but when you do watch the video, Jenny's now taking a nap. She's bored with this conversation,
Well,
or else either that or she's so comfortable with the conversation, she just wants to.
I am sure that our engineers have programmed Jenny to fall asleep as soon as I start talking.
Oh, you think so? Well, that was one of my questions is, so what significant technical challenge did you have in creating Jenny? Was there anything like her movement of her neck or her ears or
Yeah, for those of you watching, I'm gonna power her off for a moment, and so I can show off some of her movement capabilities.
okay.
So we knew at the end of our customer studies, we knew that realism was going to be important, and we knew how to get the robot to move realistically. That was a lot of work, a lot of challenges. But the prototype robot that could move realistically was fragile. It
Oh,
uh,
doesn't work. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
with seniors with dementia, anything on the ground presents a tripping hazard, and
Okay,
so
okay.
products in this category are never to be placed on the ground. They sit on somebody's lap or on a table or a chair, somewhere where they can remain in close proximity, close contact with the robot. Um, but that means the robot's always in an elevated position, and it's going to fall. Our
Um,
prototypes couldn't survive falls. So we had to fully re-engineer the product, literally 100% re-engineer the product to survive everyday use,
aw,
pass all of the many required safety certifications. Child safety people say, even though this is for dementia, any product that has fur covering on it, plush covering, is attractive to young children. So we have to get all of the safety certifications for a child's product, even though this is not intended for young children. Um, and this will be an FDA product, so we have to get all the FDA certifications. And then lastly, it needs to be manufacturable in high volumes in order to get the cost down. So economies of scale. It took $80,000 to build our Generation 5 robot. Nobody wants a $80,000 lapdog, and so we had to build it in such a way that it could be produced in much larger numbers, retain all the features, functionality, all the desirability of it, but engineer for mass production. And that's a big deal. And we've been at this quite some time. We'll have raised and deployed over $15 million before we ship our first product. The company was launched in 2017, so the time that we've been involved with this is quite long, but we're very close. So we're happy to see the light at the end of the tunnel and know that lots of people will be enjoying new puppies here very shortly.
We know that there are some communities, some assisted living communities that allow live animals.
We're big fans of that. There are two types of relationships that someone in a senior community that is permissive towards live animals will have. One is that they can bring their own pet in. But what happens in those circumstances is the pets, first of all, the sad thing about pets is they don't live that long. So oftentimes people will bring in a pet that's aging, and it will pass
Oh,
away while they're there. And do they
oh,
really want to replace it with a new pet? And so that's a challenge. And for people who don't bring in pets, don't have pets of their own, they have community pets. And once again, we're huge fans of both scenarios. But the problem with a community pet, specifically for someone with dementia, is the community pets really watch us. They're very shrewd to our behavior. And as a person with dementia ages, their behaviors can become more erratic. And what happens is the community pet becomes wary of those people and won't interact with them anymore. There was a
really?
interesting study that was done out of Australia that looked specifically at this question, and they found that people strongly preferred the robotic animal to the community pet because the residents could choose when and how they wanted to interact with the robot, whereas the community dog chose when and how it would interact with the residents. And so while we're
Right.
fans and we have many of our assisted living and memory care operations are pet friendly and have pets, we are complementary to try to take those relationships with the companions to another place.
So, for seniors who've never had a pet or who've lost one, how does Jenny fill that space for them?
So two important questions there. Peak pet ownership rates are in our 50s and then decline by about 50% per decade after that, to the point where people in the 80s and 90s, very few people have live animals anymore. Um, and that's by choice.
Interesting statistic.
Yeah, and down at the University of Michigan produced those stats. And so people who are otherwise healthy and capable, physically capable of owning pets, choose not to have pets as they age, as we get beyond our 50s. Uh, and so there is a natural void there that we're looking to fill. Now, there are many people that, despite the fact they were physically capable, chose never to have a live animal, or maybe they had one very early in their life, but
Right.
didn't choose to maintain pets
Yeah.
as they age, 30s, 40s, 50s, even peak pet ownership rates. There may be reasons why for that, but they just didn't care for it, wasn't of interest to them. Maybe it was a lifestyle choice. But we have a lot of people that are afraid of dogs specifically, and we've studied with those. And what we found with both people who chose never to have a pet and people that were afraid of pets and just couldn't psychologically be near them, that they're very attracted to our robot, because our robot is essentially maintenance free, other than plugging it in to make sure it gets charged overnight. Uh, and it's programmable in such a way, or configurable in such a way, that we can eliminate those behaviors that cause the fear reaction. Um, in our studies with adults, not seniors, but with adults that have cynophobia, as it's called, there were two things that stood out more than any others about why they were afraid of dogs. One was the barking. Um, And it
Oh,
wasn't just the sound, and the sound obviously is a very sharp sound,
sure.
particularly
Yep.
an angry
That'd
bark.
be annoying. Yep.
But it was the behavior itself. It was the dog opening its mouth to bark. And, the teeth are very threatening to someone who's afraid of a dog. Maybe they were bitten at some point in their lives and just that maintain that fear. And so we can not only mute the bark sound, but we can disable the bark behavior itself. So the dog will never actually go through the behavior of barking. And then the second
And
is
it's the unknown, right? And you don't know when a dog starts to make that sound or open its mouth, you don't know it's gonna lunge at you, although they usually don't, but or you don't know what to expect, so it's very unnerving.
That's right. So barking could be a playful sound, or it could be a sound of aggression or warning. People who are afraid assume the worst. And it's irrational, right? It's not somebody who's processing that as someone without a pet fear has. They're saying,
Correct.
okay, this is a threat, and whatever it's doing right now, I interpret as more threatening than even normal behavior.
Sure.
And then the second is rapid movement. A
Yep,
dog makes a
of course.
sudden move.
Right.
So we can eliminate rapid movements. So part of our technology is to have the potential for unlimited categories of behaviors and unlimited behaviors within a given category. And we code those behaviors in a category, and we can eliminate all categories of behaviors that would trigger that fear reaction. Um, Conversely, some people have a late stage dementia have difficulty stimulating the robot to get it to react. And so we can make the robot very proactive. And when it does react, be very animated, especially animated. It can be demanding of attention. And so a lot of configurability as to what personality the robot will have, to try to get that just right for people, regardless of what relationships they've had with pets over the course of their lives.
So, I see that Jenny's gonna wake up a little bit. I'm so glad to see that. It's Yep, you all have to go on the video and watch this. It's just amazing. So, a couple of basic questions is so I'm assuming you never Jenny would never be in a situation where they feel they need to bathe her, correct?
Correct. So the robot, for safety reasons, can be wetted. So we actually have to test for water penetration to make sure that it does nothing bad happens when that happens. So she's designed to be cleaned, and happy to talk about that. But she can be cleaned to hospital standards of disinfection.
Is that
Uh,
right? And
and
who
so
does that? Is the patient able to do that? No, of course not.
Well, so there are three different use cases for from a practical standpoint, three different use cases. One is at home, like my mother. My mother tried feeding hers chocolate pudding. So we realized the robot has to be cleanable, and there are specific ways in which the robot can be cleaned to remove dirt, debris. The oils from your hands can build up on the fur, and restoring the dog to having this nice luster that you see on screen.
Right.
Um, but you're not afraid of communication of disease in that. Pretty much like your own dog, you only bathe your dog when the dog's really dirty. But in a shared living environment, like assisted living memory care, somebody could touch it with some sort of infectious disease, like a respiratory disease, put their
Yep.
hand on the dog, and then somebody right after them touches it, wipes their face. And that's a way that that disease can be spread. That's true of our robot. It's true of a live animal as well.
Sure. Yep. Of course.
So our robot can be cleaned with antimicrobial treatment. There are peer-reviewed studies out of the United Kingdom that show how to do that, and that it gets to a point where the pathogens that were included in those studies, including COVID, are not detectable after that cleaning. But that's not good enough for hospitals. In
Right.
hospitals, we have to achieve something called Spalding low-level criteria of disinfection. So that's safe for people with closed skin. Anybody who has an open wound, or of course something that would be inserted inside the body, our robot will not be cleanable to those levels. Um, but for people with closed skin in a hospital environment, the robot can be cleaned with a combination of the antimicrobial and ultraviolet UV radiation, which kills all detectable organic substances at that point.
And she'll always look as good as she does now.
Yeah. So a robot is a little bit like a car. The more you use it, the more likely it's going to need service. And of course, you crash it into something, it's going to need repair. Uh, uh, but she is designed to be long lasting, be cleanable and restorable through ordinary types of maintenance, which we provide instruction on how to do.
Ordinary wear and tear, huh? And that is one of my questions. So what is her lifespan?
So one of the things we heard early on in our studies is that one of the reasons why seniors don't have uh, pets any longer is they don't want to grieve for the loss of another family member. And so we wanted to make sure that the robot lasted long enough that people wouldn't grieve for the loss of their puppy. Senior with dementia, once they're diagnosable with dementia, life expectancy is about 4.5 years. And so, like a smartphone, I mean, if you really are very hard on your smartphone, it won't last that long. But smartphones are typically designed to last about that long. And our puppy is designed similarly.
So she's FDA approved, is that correct?
So FDA registered. So we are, if you're an FDA wonk,
I'm not much of one, certainly not what you are. So but go
yeah.
ahead and tell it.
So the FDA considers us what's called a 510K exempt product, meaning we don't have to prove that it's safe or effective before we can begin selling it. But if we wish to sell it as an FDA product, we have to comply with all the safety certifications as well as all the quality management systems. And so that's called FDA registration. And so we'll be an FDA registered product. But being an FDA registered product means we can't make specific health claims. We can't say your health will be better if you use a robot. What we can say is this study over there suggests, and you can draw your own conclusions.
So when you get to the point where you are now, Tom, do you go back to those 700 people and test her, or do you go to another group?
The answer is yes. So one of the things that we wanted to do is test the production cosmetics, and so sadly, we've been working on this so long. Many of the people of our early testers are no longer with us.
That is sad.
But the same organizations that hosted our studies are thrilled for us to come back in and say, we've got a new one. Can we come back in and see what people think? Great. Because it's kind of a fun, enriching activity for the residents and participants. So back out to Ventura County and Santa Barbara County to test the production cosmetics, and then start delivering them to the people that have ordered them very soon.
So I have a question. So does Jennie have does she react? Can you give her a name and she'll respond to that? Is she always Jennie? Is she nameless?
Great question. So Jennie, we come with a smartphone app that allows for all the configuration settings that I mentioned, including renaming the robot. They all come standard as Jennie, so you don't need to do this. But if you want to rename the robot, you can rename it, and then she'll only respond to that given name. See if I can get her to pay attention to me. Hey, Jennie, want a treat? Can you hear? Can you hear? Is that audible?
Oh, absolutely, it is.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you give her a command and she'll respond to that. But it could have been Fluffy, Sparky, Daisy, whatever. If someone wants to name their puppy, we gendered her as a female, not intentionally, just sort of happened with our work with Jim Henson Creature Shop. But people don't have to give it a gender if they don't choose to. But this is a female for us, and goes with the name Jennie.
And do you program her volume?
That's settable. So we set it. So with the safety certifications, we have to set the maximum volume level. So if somebody has their ear right up to it, regardless of how they've changed the volume, it never is high enough volume to hurt them. But they can reduce the volume and sort of right size that, at the maximum or any place below, including muting it if they don't want to listen to the barking.
They can mute it.
The robot can be fully muted, and then the barking behavior will be mute, or they can turn off the barking behavior too. If they turn off the barking behavior, the robot still can make sounds while it's doing other things, like the robot yawns, it snores, it sniffs when it explores its environment. It coos. lots of all the things that you might associate with an 8 to 10 week old Labrador Retriever puppy. We actually have real recordings of 8 to 10 week old Labrador Retriever puppies. There are voice actors, and those are the ones that we use in the puppy.
This is fascinating. I do encourage all of our listeners and any of you who haven't viewed it yet. This will be on our YouTube channel, and we will have a link here as we show this and talk about it later. I just want to interrupt for a minute. We are very fortunate, and how I first met Tom was that he's going to be the guest at an AgeTech meetup, mini conference, so to speak, in San Clemente on July 17th. It's AgeTech LA, but we're bringing it to Orange County. So we're very excited that he's going to be one of our guests. When I saw it, this is exactly what I've been looking for. I need him on my show and to preview so everyone will know what's coming to San Clemente as well as for your own use. So tell us, let's go to the business side. And then I want to talk about AgeTech a little bit. You've raised a lot of money, and tell us, how does that work? And of course, I want to know, I guess I watch Shark Tank too much. How do I know if someone's going to reproduce? How are you going to keep someone from copying you?
Great question. So first of all, fundraising is absolutely the most difficult part of the job.
No
I
kidding.
did
I've
not
heard
have
that.
I did not have this much gray hair when I started.
No, your hair isn't that gray on the picture for the July event. I have to tell you that.
Uh, uh, it's really very challenging. 90+% of institutional investors won't invest in hardware under any circumstances, and most of the rest of them that will invest in something like a robot want to see us shipping the product, actually delivering it to customers first before they jump in, which means that if it takes $15 million to bring the first robot to market, we gotta get it from other sources. We're very fortunate that we have a few healthcare venture capital firms that have believed in us and have helped us along the way. But we also have money from family offices for angel offices, individual angel investors, as well as just regular people. We've run 3 regulation crowdfunding campaigns, which meant that anybody, anywhere in the world, or virtually anywhere in the world, could, for as little as $250, own stock in Tombot. And these people have been hugely helpful to us, not only because it makes them most likely high value customers. They're gonna get puppies first when we're shipping.
We certainly love people who invest in us.
Yeah, exactly, and then but also these are people that are gonna spread the word for us too. So we've raised money that way from almost 1,500 individuals, and those are gonna 1,500 emissaries for us spreading news from around the world, and we have investors from every continent. Uh,
So I do have to interrupt to ask if someone's listening and they want to invest. Are you still taking investors?
Not at this time. We closed our most recent round in May, and so
Oh,
we're
we just missed it.
just missed it. We're paused for now, but as companies go, we always need more money in the future. So we'll have information on our website at tombot.com, tombot.com, for investors, but likely will be in the latter portion of 2026 before we're raising our next round of capital.
That's a long time.
We raise a lot of money. Once again, we're very fortunate to get some believers, and that's really allowing us to bring the product the rest of the way to market and begin research and development on our next products.
So do tell us, how do we know that no one will bring on a Jennie?
So there, so this is really, really hard stuff. The reason why it's taken us so long,
Yes, I'm sure
uh,
it is.
there's so many never been done before technical challenges in building a realistic robot, that anybody who wants to do that and compete against us is going to have to solve all the same problems that we've solved with all the capital or more that we've deployed, and do it in such a way that doesn't violate our intellectual property rights. And so we have IP protection, we have patents on numerous patents on the product, and are filing more regularly. So
I'm
there's a
sure.
lot of invention here that we wish to protect. But even if we weren't protecting it, I mean, if somebody got our product and said, "Okay, I'm going to reverse engineer this thing," it's still really hard. It's hard stuff. So the first thing is that it's hard and it's going to be difficult for somebody to come and enter us. And then secondly, we have so many customers now that people are going to have to build something better than what
Right,
we have, which means it's going to be more time and more capital just to compete against us.
right.
And then lastly, the FDA regulation. That's no joke. Complying with the FDA work, companies that aren't prepared to do that are probably not going to be successful.
Yeah.
And so there are a lot of protections from market share to brand to technical advantages to IP to regulation that are going to keep us from having an extraordinary number of competitors anytime soon.
I could keep you here forever, so we'll just have to bring you back again. But I do want to ask you, what do you think, other than Jenny, of course, which now we're all sold? I would definitely want a Jenny. And what do you think are the most exciting things in age tech that are coming up? Is is Jenny it? Are there other things you see that you're really excited to watch for?
Think of us as age tech, but also health tech. So health tech for
Right.
aging people. Products that are designed specifically for seniors that make their lives easier, that make their lives healthier. That's really the focus. And the area that I'm most excited about is monitoring. Historically, the only time we knew anything about our health is when we went to go see the doctor. And if we were relatively healthy, we didn't go to see the doctor very often.
No.
Um, Monitoring, and this has come from science fiction to the academic world and now into the commercial world relatively quickly. Being able to monitor our own health, get information about how well we're doing at any given time is right around the corner. And so I'm very excited about health monitoring and safety monitoring, not just for seniors with dementia, but for all people of all ages. But particularly as we age, 80% of people 65 and over have at least two chronic illness conditions for which we should be receiving treatment. Over half of us are out of compliance with our prescribed care within the first 4 months. And so, we age, we collect chronic, conditions, and so the monitoring can give us sort of a boost that doctors have better information,
Right.
and can give us better, more accurate treatment, courses, without sort of so much trial and error.
And maybe that we can even watch for ourselves so we don't hear stories of somebody that went to the doctor and they were sick and didn't know it and died 3 weeks later. So that's pretty
And
sad.
it's the tragedies that you hear, the sad thing is our body starts aging after age 26, and so we we are accumulating errors in our body, and those errors accumulate to diagnosable conditions as we approach and exceed our 60s. Uh, um, we need more help, and that's
Would
really
you?
the biggest area of excitement for me.
Yep, yep. Well, that's exciting. It has been delightful having you with us. I'm sure everyone wants to see Jenny as much as I do. So we're going to show her online. Be sure to watch our YouTube channel, and the links are going to be all on here. And when can people have their own Jenny?
Well, so right now people can go to our website and join our wait list. We're not nailing down our time frame exactly yet because we don't want to give people bad information. But if you join our wait list, you will be automatic. There's no obligation. You can cancel at any time. But if you join our wait list, you'll start receiving our regular updates. You'll then be in line to receive the puppy and in the order of priority that you have with your place on the wait list. So we
Well,
hope
we'll need to.
everybody visits our website and chooses to join the wait list.
Absolutely, and we would love to have you come back, and I hope I get invited to the launch party. Thank you, Tom, so much for being with us today. Your story, your mission, and Jenny are making such a powerful impact. So to our listeners and our viewers, we want you to know that Always Ageless is much more than a show, and we're so excited to bring these things to you. So until next time, stay curious, stay connected, always stay ageless, and send us your stories when you have a Jenny. Thank you, Tom, very much for being with us.